Good morning, 'tis the 26th of November 2025. Dampish, but good enough day here in rural Ireland. Just getting bright. I'm going to play you extracts from a speech by the Sinn Fein leader Mary Lou McDonald on the energy crisis. And then I'm going to show you the duplicity and the hypocrisy of the Sinn Fein party and indeed of Labour and the other left-wing parties. Now, the first thing she asks is, Call Will on Taoiseach, which in English means, where is the Taoiseach? That's the Prime Minister. And the answer is that Taoiseach is just back from a trip to Brazil, to the COP30, as they call it, the Flop 30. And he burned loads of fossil fuel going over and loads of fossil fuel going back, like thousands of others like him. And then he went to Angola, and he's over there going to do some wonderful thing over there. I'm sure they need him. This is the guy cannot build a children's hospital, and he's over explaining to Angola how they should build their country. Anyway, we'll get on with Mary Lou here.
I understand the Taoiseach's back in the country. He should be here taking questions.
So I had to adjust my speaker, which is just here. It's a paired speaker system. And we'll go again now.
Taking questions. Minister, the cost of home heating oil has shot up €80 in just 1 month. It's a big blow. The average price for a fill of oil is now a staggering €980.
The first question I'd ask you, how many litres in the fill? We're talking now about late 2025, right?
And this hike hits more than 1 million households, mostly rural families and the elderly, who rely on oil to heat their homes. And here's the real kick in the teeth, Minister. This unaffordable cost of home heating oil has been driven up by your decisions. €220 of the cost of a fill of oil is already carbon tax. And your planned increases will add a further €150 in the time ahead. It has to be asked, how on earth do you think people can afford that?
So, the enormous amount of carbon tax, which is all paid out to Angola, no doubt Michal Martin will give it to the Angolans, and they'll give it to the Brazilians. Over there, he's given them a colossal amount of money. Over there, he'll splash it all around our carbon taxes. Meanwhile, as Mary Lou, I suppose I have to agree with her on this, says it's the elderly and the poor who suffer. And indeed, what about children who are cowered in the cold? We're a cold climate. Most of the populated world is a hot climate. Italy's warm. You could live without heat at all. So is many parts of southern parts of the United States and Mexico. We're a cold climate. And yet we're the ones who are expected to carry the can. So they've piled on carbon tax. But the thing for the people, older people and those who are caught with this, you voted Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Sinn Féin, Labour and all the rest, and what the hell do you expect? What do you expect them to do? And what's more, this time last year I was going for election and they didn't take this into account at all. There was nothing on the Sinn Féin manifesto last year about reducing the price of fossil fuel or electricity or anything else. Absolutely duck egg. So we'll go on another bit.
One family contacted me yesterday. They got a fill of heating oil last week and they haven't turned on the heating since Friday because they need that fill to last over Christmas and throughout the new year. They're rationing their heat. The weather is colder now and the reality is that more and more working households struggle to pay their bills, to light and heat their homes. Energy is unaffordable and people are being ripped off. You met with the top
hold on.
companies back in
People are being ripped off. It's the government's doing the ripping off. The next thing she's going to turn on the oil companies, as if they shouldn't be making a profit. How are they going to continue in business if they don't pay a profit? We once had Statoil, an Irish government agency, to keep the oil flowing. That was dismantled. Sinn Féin had nothing to say. It was dismantled, as I remember, under a Labour Fine Gael government. So the oil is imported by private companies, and it's complex, and I'll deal more with how it works. But Sinn Féin was fully aware that this day would come. I met Darren O'Rourke, I met all the Fianna Fáil TDs, I met Matt Carthy, I met a good few Sinn Féin TDs unofficially. And I told them straight, you must start all your renewable energy stuff with the compliance with Article 3.2 of the SEA directive. And they laughed at me. And they said to me, including Matt Carthy, Val, we can't go against the green energy or we won't get votes. The youngsters won't vote for us. Will you go on now and look at the oldsters and the youngsters? You see this? They failed to assess all this. They failed to do any due diligence on the cost of the ridiculous carry on. So we'll go on to hear what she has to say.
September, Minister. And what happened? Well, the majority hiked up their electricity prices. No fear of any consequence. Then, with winter on the horizon and energy bills going up, you chose to cancel energy credits in October's budget. A terrible decision, withdrawing the one bit.
Now, the reason that the electricity price has gone up is your stupid solar farms and windmills and adding every junk, battery storage. Stupid. Wind turbines are a net consumer of electricity when measured over a year. We now have a duplicate system. We needed 7,000 megawatts of conventional generation. We now have about 10 of conventional generation to keep the windmills going, and they're used electricity at an awful rate. It's taken the electricity to power Limerick, to power Ireland's wind turbines. Okay, now the next thing is, even if that's not true, the best engineers in Holland have said it's 4% of the capacity, which is nothing.
Of help people relied on to pay those rip-off bills. In fact, you delivered a budget of €9.4 billion that left working people worse off. No cost of living package while households are being hammered with no end in sight. Social justice.
Now, her solution, if you listen to that plainly, her solution is to keep the credits going. And the credits are a taxpayer subsidy to people's energy bills and are enormously expensive. So her policies have driven up the price of electricity, and now she wants the taxpayer to bail it out. And that is precisely what economist Conor McCarthy said. He said there will eventually be NAMA, National Asset Management Agency for Windmills. And that's what that is. Understand? So this one has caused this problem. They cheered on Eamon Cabbagehead Ryan. They never tackled him and asked his single TD now the question, or asked the minister, what about the 11 million of diesel engines bought and imported into South Dublin that couldn't be got across the Whistling Bridge where they were needed to generate electricity? That was swept under the carpet, and Sinn Féin knows damn well about it. Okay?
And pushed more
we'll continue here now.
Into financial distress. Yes. People literally live in dread of the next electricity or gas or heating bill. And I meet working parents who tell me they've bought extra blankets for their kids' beds because they can't afford to turn on the heat. Elderly people going to bed early to stay warm. Couples, often with two incomes, borrowing from family members to pay their energy bills. Desperate situations. Minister, and your government sticks its head in the sand.
Right, she's talking Irish. Now, the thing about it is, Sinn Féin are as guilty as the government. They backed every bit of the renewable nonsense. They backed every bit of the carbon tax. And it's now a part of the budget. She didn't mention that the amount of people in arrears has gone up again by 26,000 people. Now, here's an article from Radio Television. Some of their news is true. It's not all fake. Certain things are true. Sinn Féin's finance spokesman Pierce Doherty has said the number of people who have fallen into arrears on their energy bills is nothing short of alarming. Why do you have to be alarmed? Why couldn't you be alarmed 5 years ago, Pierce, when I told you this was coming? When Colin McCarthy told you it was coming? No. It was all lovely. Oh, sure, we'll have a lovely table with all the table. We'll be boiling hot and we'll have tape-free electricity from all them windmills up and Donegal. That's the way Pierce Doherty looked at it. And that fella has a certain degree of education in accounting. So that shows you there's no excuse for him at all. The Commission for Regulation of Utilities published figures showing that close to 300,000 households had some form of arrears on their electricity bills. This is electricity in the 3-month period to September. And that's in the summer. What will happen now? So those electricity bills would be for June, July and August, that type of period. Or July and August, that type of period. There are 187 customers 90 days or more behind on their bills, an increase of 26,000. There are 187 customers 90 days more on their bills behind, an increase of 26,000. Now, it says above 300,000, which is different to this, but I can only quote RTE, and so they wouldn't count for nuts. The figure showed 180 households were also in arrears over the same period, which is 26% of residential customers. Now, if that's not waffle, I don't know. I'll just read it to you again. The Commission for Utilities yesterday published figures that showed close to 300,000 households had some form of arrears on the electricity bills in the 3-month period to September. There were 187,000 customers who were 90 days or more behind on their bills, an increase of 26,000. The figure showed 180,000 households were also in arrears over the same period. That must be added to it. I mean, what would you expect from RT? Which is 26% of residential customers. Speaking in the Dáil during leaders' questions, the Donegal TD said, these are not just numbers, they are cold living rooms families sit wrapped in coats because they cannot switch to heat. I saw that happen to myself. They are older people rationing warmth, terrified of opening the next bill. Mr. Doherty put it to the Taoiseach and that to Simon Harris, all of this is happening because your government is doing nothing to tackle the rip-off and keep prices under control. He has no suggestion how you keep prices under control. The companies supplying the electricity have to pay for the fuel, the staff and everything else. Pierce Doherty's stupid, pylons. He's as much into this as anyone else. His stupid windmills. The windmills have to get the highest fossil fuel price. So if there's 3 sorts of fossil fuel, the windmills get the most expensive. He won't tell you that. Nor neither will Mary Lou. That the thing is wrong. What's the electricity companies to do? They have to shell out to rah wind farm. They're all broke. They're all insolvent, living off the fat of somebody else's work. So how can you cut it? This is a lie by Sinn Féin, a huge lie. So apparently the Taoiseach, the Deputy Prime Minister, said that they are getting help with their bills. Well, I don't think they are. House or bill and they're getting access to direct assistance with their bills than ever before. Direct assistance doesn't mean it's paid. He said that those in receipt of working family payments are now also applying for the allowance, while pensioners can also avail of an allowance under the household benefits package. And everyone should apply for that. Skin them. Because they'll only give it abroad. It'll go to Brazil if you don't get it. He said over 500,000 homes are being supported. So according to the Deputy Prime Minister in Ireland, 500,000 homes in Ireland are being supported. Right? He added that the government had frozen VAT. There is still VAT. Why are we paying VAT on fuel, on electricity? While Minister for Energy, Darragh O'Brien, has also been engaged in energy companies overpricing. What can he do? Is he going to make them produce at a loss? That's what the fella that got elected, Ratchobani in New York, he wants to force supermarkets to give away their food free. And in Germany, they're putting tags on the bars of chocolate because people are stealing it. And in Ireland, a lot of old people are now going into libraries during the day to try and keep warm. They get out of their bed freezing, they get their clothes on, they head to the library and they get the paper. And they're going into the pubs. And you have a situation in some Irish pubs where the barman has to let them in and sit in the corner, and they spend maybe 5 hours in the evening and maybe drink a glass of beer and maybe drink nothing. That's the way it's gone. This is not the cause of Fianna Fáil. Fianna Fáil are crooks. Yes men, bought over by George Soros and company. Fine Gael are more so. But Fine Gael masquerades as the party of the people. And they're liars, because I warned them of this. If they had any strategy, they could have taken it into account. They didn't have to defer to me. I'd have marked their card behind the counter. So do not fall for this. And up in O'Duffy Terrace in Ballybay, when they had the chance of voting for me that would crucify these people, I'd have used the income I got from the Dáil to take them on the SCA directive. I'd have blocked them. But no, they voted for these idiots. Up in Monaghan, in Mullamat. Oh, I'm Sinn Fein. And out in Davenant and Scotstown. They won't change, and they'll never change. And that just may freeze, because that's what you deserve, with your bloody Sinn Féin. Oh, we get a free Ireland. And you're frozen to death in it. Might be some wee thing in the north. They have the winter fuel allowance restored up there. 300 sterling. There's nothing here. Anyway, folks, I rest my case there on 16 minutes. That's Mary Lou pontificating about the fuel crisis. Well, my job is do not let the Labour, the Sinn Féin or anyone else away with this. They are the cause of it. And if Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael had said we're not going along with this climate rascality, they'd have blocked them. They'd have said you're not looking after the planet. Now, anyone that can post underneath on the precise number of people in arrears, you'd want to be more than 60 days. I'd very much appreciate it, but it's a lot anyway. It's a lot. Now, the energy regulator is warning. I met him in 2014 and he laughed. He laughed his heart off. Oh, you're some idiot coming up, you and your cows. Farting cows. He laughed as well. This is the way it's going. I met Senator Joe Riley, the local Fine Gael senator here. He was once a TD. Everyone's in for this, Val, you're wrong. I interrupted his meeting in Cavan and he wouldn't listen. He had a meeting up there with Simon Coveney. I said, you're going to freeze the people. Laughed at me. Laughed at the good of it. And then you have the Irish Farmers Association. They are secret. They are shutting up too. Not a word out of them either. All they want is, how can we get in on the act? How can we put solar panels on the hay shed and get paid for the electricity from the government? Driving the cost onto these very people, because it doesn't work. It just adds another layer of bills. They have pushed their heat pumps. And every time the electricity goes off, the people have to flee them and go into hotels and places because there's no heat. It's like an icebox in the house. What a scam. Scam artists are Sinn Féin. Needless to say, folks, I'm open for discussion, public discussion, with any Sinn Féin supporter anytime you want. I'll debate this openly and positively with you without any problem, but you can't win. You all know you've done wrong. You all know you have a guilt. You look down. I'm voting Sinn Féin anyway. I don't care what you say. I'm voting Sinn Féin. Oh my God, I'm voting Féin. They'll get the Brits out. And them freezing in their homes. Stupid idiots. Good luck. See you back.